if we want to drive change at scale, we need to collaborate. And collaborating is not easy because it's beyond the borders of your organization. And who owns this and who takes ownership when, right? But at least the experience that we've had in this, we've only had really positive things. So
welcome to Sustainability Transformations podcast, where we explore bold ideas to drive positive change for people, the community, and business. And today's guest is Amir Elion, CEO of Think Big Leaders, ex-Amazon Innovation Lead, Sustainability Tech Strategist. And the key goal of our discussion is to look at how sustainability leads with innovation managers and how some of these sustainability opportunities can drive key initiatives for innovation and for society's benefits. Amir, thank you so much for joining. How do you believe the innovation and sustainability can help build better tech and society outcomes for people, for business, and for the planet?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me. When I came across your podcast, I really connected because it really touches on the things that I care about, right? And I believe, also coming to your question, I believe that, of course, we have to do things about sustainability and we have to do it fast and at scale. And I believe that technology and innovation can play a critical role in that. And I try to do my bit there with people that I also collaborate. So that's why I really liked this opportunity to talk about it and talk with you about it. And the way I believe is, the thing is, each of these areas, sustainability, innovation, technology, they're very broad and they're very complex. So if you keep yourself to that domain that you're an expert for, so if you're a sustainability leader, it's very hard to understand the other domains. And I think we should connect all of these, right? Business, technology, people, sustainability, AI, now that kind of I'm trying to chip in. And to do that, we need to collaborate between the domains, because otherwise there's different languages, all the acronyms that each domain has, and the deep knowledge and the regulations and all of that. So I think we must talk and we must collaborate. And that's what I'm trying to do and help people think about.
At the early stages of sustainability, one of the things that I heard about was systems thinking. And as you've mentioned, and I'm hoping this platform will bring all of these ideas together, and bringing these ideas together help to connect the dots, as you mentioned. So perhaps we'll start with your early journey, where perhaps you picked up a few skills. I mentioned systems thinking, but from innovation, what sustainability audience may learn from your key insights through your innovation journey around leading Amazon's Working Backwards program. What are some of the things you can share with us on that?
Yeah, so quickly kind of run through so I've been in innovation many years in different hats and roles. So I've done innovation consulting, I've been director of products into startups, I've done all kinds of, even when I was not like an official innovation role, when I was in training roles in enterprises, I always kept kind of the small fire of innovation going and did internal workshops for innovation, because that's kind of something that drives me. To be truthful, I didn't know too much about sustainability up until 5 years ago when I moved to Stockholm and to the Nordics. So I moved here, as you said, to lead Amazon's innovation program in the Nordics, which is essentially sharing how does Amazon think about innovation, customer obsessed innovation, with other organizations, businesses, public sector, and startups and whatnot. And then when I landed in Sweden and in the Nordics, I realized this was a big topic here and very important to many people. And there were a lot of opportunities to learn about it and to do things about it. So I knew I needed to catch up. I took several courses in university, although it's been a while since I've done my master's and so on, but it was a great way to kind of get into things. So that was, and then I started to do a lot of projects here in the Nordics that are related to sustainability and innovation. So, for an example, I was working with a company in Finland who does waste management, and we were looking how can data and AI be used to help their customers get better results in recycling and circular economy, and think of innovative ideas. So that's where I kind of put my feet into the water with regards to sustainability. And in the past 2 years, and maybe we can talk about it even more, I've also kind of jumped in on an initiative together with two other partners, ladies, Fernanda and Evelina, where we try to actually make change, and we combine what I just talked about, the fields or domains of innovation, circular economy, regulation, and AI and technology to actually create action and impact. So that's how I was exposed to sustainability. By the way, when I was at Amazon, we also had like a sustainability innovation team, which I collaborated with. So people who've done, really amazing stuff in around sustainability. So I also learned a lot from them.
Yeah, that's an incredible journey. Perhaps if we can pick one part of your journey of moving to Sweden and your observation with the Nordics, what are some unique insights about how that area is uniquely positioned to deliver sustainability and tech, would you say?
Yeah. So the one thing, of course, this is high on the agenda of everybody, and it's not just from the mouth outwards. There are really action around it, both in the public sector, recycling. Sweden is doing very well in recycling and taking care of the environment. And you see this in even the day-to-day activities and the approach that people take. So anything in society, there's lots of. I don't know if you've been to Stockholm, but it's a really great place where I think to find the right balance between city life and urban living, but integrated with nature and giving people the opportunity. Because Swedes, sorry for generalizing, but in general, Swedes they love nature and they like going out to nature and hiking, and they appreciate the environment. So I've learned from that. I think I've been enriched by that, and I try to do the same. And when it comes to businesses, first of all, because the public cares about it and the customers care about it, they definitely take action around it. But maybe also because they are in this culture. So I think this is one key learning that I've absorbed. If you have this energy from all the actors, all the players, and everybody's in that direction, and it's not just talk, it's actually action, then you kind of swipe all the everybody. Everybody understands they have to come along. And for me, this is why, again, 5 years ago you would have asked me about sustainability. I didn't know or care too much about it, and I've been swept by this energy and by this uh, um, the care that people have. So I think that's a learning for me. You need to have impact. You need to get everybody on board. You need to get action, and you need to talk about it. So definitely something I've learned.
From sustainability, usually when I do training, one of the key things is how the training wouldn't just be a death by, you know, PowerPoint, but how the training can translate into behavior and culture and change. And it's so nice to know that example, even though you mention it from a society perspective within organizations, when they take action, it permeates into the employees as well. So thanks for sharing that. So perhaps it's a good moment to look at the Global Green Action Day. Can you, for the purpose of the audience who may not have heard about it, can you give us a brief overview of what that great sustainability initiative around the Global Green Action Day?
Yes, and I agree. It really connects a good segue. So about 2 years ago, I met with Fernanda Torre, and she had this idea that she wanted to create action and connect those fields, as I mentioned, innovation, sustainability, regulation. She told me, we had lunch, and she said, you know what? And we really clicked. And she said, I need you to lead the AI module for this concept. And I immediately agreed without knowing too much, but I jumped in. I said, after I felt that was an opportunity for me to actually do something and contribute around sustainability. So that's how we started, and we had a group of people, and we built initially like an online program where people from all over the world could connect and learn about those domains, right? And how they connect. And in my piece, I did, how AI can be used for sustainability, but also the risks and the challenges and so forth. We had other modules around how to do communication right, how to innovate in a systematic way, regulation and circular economy. And fast forward to this year, together with Fernanda and with Evelina Lindqvist, who's in Austria, we wanted to take it a step up and not just like an online program. And after running it for a few times, we decided we wanted, as you said, it's not enough to learn, you need to apply this. So we set up hackathons, and we connected with leading organizations that posted challenges. And we also connected with the UN Environmental Day on June 5th, and we were part of that. And in 4 locations, we had in Stockholm, in Vienna, in Lisbon and Porto in Portugal. And an online as well session where we had hundreds of people come in, address those challenges from the organizations, private and public sector organizations that posted the challenges. And within that day, they came up with great ideas but it wasn't just the hackathon, because before that, for 2 months, they had to go through this training. They had to ramp themselves up and be on the same page in terms of skills around these kind of topics, right? Sustainability, innovation, AI. So they came prepared, and they could actually take action, hit the ground running with depth of knowledge in actually addressing those challenges. So now we're, kind of processing what the ideas were. We sent it back to the organizations that posted the challenges, and they're going to select the best ideas and take them forward. But for me, this was an example of how we could connect learning, action, and business in an effective way. So this was like a really strong event on the Global Green Action Day. We're now thinking about what would be the next steps and how would we expand this to more locations, to more organizations. If anybody's listening to your podcast has wants to collaborate around that, we're more than happy to talk. There's more information on globalgreenactionday.com. But yeah, that's the story until now. It's going to grow, but for now, that's the story around Global Green Action Day.
Perhaps if you can share one or two challenge which has been posted and how the whole process of understanding the problem or the challenge or the opportunity, if you can perhaps, walk us through, one, just to give us a flavor of the type of sustainability challenges businesses are facing.
Yeah, so just one example that comes to mind is one of the Swedish public organizations posted, they're trying to promote the sustainable purchasing habits for clothing, right? So they have an idea on that each person should not buy more than 5 new items of clothes per year, right? So that was kind of the challenge. That was the goal that they posted, and they wanted ideas. How can we promote this with different audiences, and convince them and teach them on how to do this? And then we posted this challenge to different teams in all the 4 locations and the online one. And then those teams came up with, and the teams included a diverse audience. So people from, marketing communication, from technology, from public sector. And together they could bring in all those perspectives and come up with great ideas, like for campaigns and for messaging. And it was very emotional seeing them. They presented this, and we had the representatives from the organizations in the room, at least in Stockholm, because each location, and you could see the energy and great ideas that otherwise would be very difficult for this small public sector organization to come up with by themselves. But now they have the energy of more people and great ideas. So that's just one example. And we had, others were like recycling centers in Albania and companies from Portugal and the Netherlands and others. So we were able to collect all these challenges. We worked together with the challenge owners to prepare them for the hackathon or for the Global Green Action Day. And we will now work with them to take those ideas further.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. A great example. So once these ideas you've explored, what are the processes you use to get the handover, so to speak, the ownership inside the organization? So the problem is solved, which it looks like is co-creation, co-solving. But at what point, when it's handed, let's say the solution, ideally, is handed over to the organization, how does that ownership works? And perhaps to give you a context of that and sustainability, the challenge that the industry is facing is there's a lot of companies that will have high-end, big consulting companies, well-respected, big names, create a sustainability strategy, beautiful, looks good on paper, PowerPoint, but the handing over of, okay, now execute, implement. I personally think, from my experience advising and training, operationalizing sustainability is where it's lacking. So that's perhaps to give you a context where I'm hoping to learn from, or the audience can learn from.
Yes, definitely. And the approach we took here, and that was like intentional, is one that, often called open innovation. So basically you open up and you speak freely about your challenges from the organization that poses the challenge, and you open it up to other actors and you invite them to help you. And I agree, it's not easy. And that's where kind of the pre-training that we did about systematic innovation, about how to use AI for this ideation and how to scale things. So that's where all this came in. But definitely, and that's the trick, because we already talked about it. If we want to drive change at scale, we need to collaborate. And collaborating is not easy because it's beyond the borders of your organization. And who owns this and who takes ownership when, right? But at least the experience that we've had in this, we've only had really positive things. So for example, I'll give you a couple of more examples. We invited a number of speakers to kind of warm up the participants and prepare them before we actually had the day. So for two months, we did a build-up of getting people into the mindset and getting them to own things and to come to the day. We've had great partnerships with the physical locations that hosted us for this. So whenever we came to any organization or individual and we suggested that they take part of this, they were really on board. I think that once you have the goal which resonates, it's easier to get people on board. But then, back to your point, operationalizing this is a challenge. And we spent a lot of time between us. Okay, so, but how do we help them make this actionable? How do we, and even the way that you write the template for them to submit the idea, that's also important. So it's also down to the details and how to get it from just, abstract ideas to something operational, how to give them the background so they don't come up with ideas that the organization already has. So all of that, it is a lot of hard work, but it is, unless you do that, you do remain at the kind of very superficial level. So you do need to do that groundwork.
It's hard work at the front end, but that hard work at the start pays off. So perhaps if we can have a segment on generative AI, which is generating a lot of buzz, but from a sustainability point of view, perhaps I'll give you a context. I'm a sustainability expert. I'm not AI expert, but the small aspect that I've learned, in fact, speaking to one AI expert,
I heard you speak with
Aladagan.
Ala.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes. So when I
I
spoke,
heard that episode.
absolutely, yeah. So it gave me the opportunity to look into what AI can bring us. And one of the areas is energy usage, where it's been promised so much 10 years ago, 2015, that the Internet of Things, and I'm just picking one aspect of AI that, I have been able to understand it, where the Internet of Things and big data in buildings, optimization alone, by just optimizing how an office building operates, how a manufacturing plant operates, there is about 26% of improvement, which if you use energy as an example, you're talking about a company that, for example, consumes $100,000 or $1 million, and they're able to achieve 26% improvement. And this optimization is like minimal costs. We're not talking about, retrofitting the building or spending high amounts of money. So based on the small one example that I've shown, I'm just curious to know how AI or generative AI adoption may be implemented in sustainability.
Yeah, and of course it's a very large topic, and there's different ways to explain it. But one way to start is to, and that's how I kind of phrase it when we do the pre-training for the Global Green Action Day as well, is to reframe sustainability as a data problem. And you kind of touched on this, because if you know that when are people in the building and when are they not, and in which areas, then you can go on to automation and using AI. Same goes for your personal consumption of electricity or food or whatnot. So it all starts with data. So what you should do is look at whatever area you're trying to do and see where is the data, what is the key data that will allow me to impact operations, also personal behaviors and insights. I can give you a few examples, from the things that I've done at Amazon, just to make this more concrete. So there are different stories where I mentioned the waste management company. The data we got there is, when will people need extra removal of different waste types? Because if you don't know, then everybody's calling at the last minute. I need this like extra for glass and extra for plastic, and then things get, you end up spending more fuel, more energy, and you're not optimizing because you have to rush into things. If you knew beforehand and if you could predict for this type of business, restaurant, at this season, in this location, in this weather, I expect them to need this type of service, I can prepare beforehand, and then I can standardize a lot of things. So it's just one example. There's a lot of things you can do about biodiversity and what's happening in the environment and in water. I know that AWS did a very big project with the Natural History Museum in the UK around, letting researchers and also educators understand what's happening in the environment and dive deep into that. So that's one side, which is the opportunity side. And there's lots to do there, and there's lots of things to do around this data and what you can optimize with it. The flip side, and you kind of touched on that a bit, is we should be aware of the risks of AI when it comes to sustainability. What could be the negative effects? And it could be, what people often talk about is like the energy and water consumption and the physical space that is needed and all the precious metals that need to be harvested. But also, which is more the bigger view of sustainability, about social justice and inclusiveness. The AI models, generative AI models, basically reflect what humans have thought for many years, what they've written. And it includes biases. And one example I like to give is, at one time, I wanted to kind of have some image of successful executives getting an award on stage, and I asked for a picture of 20 such executives. And I think out of the 20, only one was a woman. and mostly were white men, right? So now that's not the AI's fault. That's our own societies reflected and mirrored to us, but amplified. So that's another example. This is another thing that I try to share with people. You should be aware as we introduce and even delegate more of the decisions about recruiting and about promotion and about selection and about education and healthcare access and all of that to AI systems. We should definitely try to avoid the amplification of the injustices. So I would say that's the flip side, that you must be, if you're not aware, if you don't know that this could happen, you just take it for granted. Oh, AI is great. We're just going to delegate. But then you're going to go into the dark areas or the disadvantages of using that technology.
Number of the LLMs who are trying to course correct those biases. With the AI, has perhaps we can tease out a bit more from a sustainability point of view or more from a culture, society point of view, where in sustainability generally, I think we tend to fall into the trap of is either or, is all solution, and there are no trade-offs. In order to get this positive of 10, you may lose 2, and then you subtract, you have +8. I think that mindset generally is in there. So using the AI as an example where it's got the good, the bad, and the ugly. How do you think, if you were advising a board who were like, oh, we want to use AI to make these productivity improvements, to make our recruitment better, to make our energy consumption better, but how do we juggle the risk? Yeah. How would you advise to navigate those positive and negatives?
Yeah, again, obviously it's a long topic. I would say to make it very actionable, I would highlight two things. First of all, select the right opportunities. So, open up things, and that's what I also try to help organizations with. Open it up for different things. Don't just think of productivity enhancement. There's better services that you can provide. There is even disruption of old value chains and operating models that you can do with the help of AI, or basically with the help of intelligence on tap. So the first step would be, okay, look at the entire map, identify the most highest potential opportunities, and so that's on increasing the potential value. On the other principle is, and there are more and more frameworks now and research done into how to do responsible AI. And it's a multifaceted thing, as I said, we mentioned bias and inclusiveness, but also security and privacy, right? How to balance between how much information should we be using that is personal and private to the betterment of society. And there's others, and transparency, by the way, that's a very important principle. So be transparent about what you're doing, that you have used AI, allow others to be part of the conversation with different perspectives, so they can say, hey, but this output doesn't fit with our set of values in this group. Maybe you've missed something, and maybe you have to change your system a bit. So summarize, on the one hand, look at the bigger picture of the opportunities. On the other hand, educate yourself and your teams about responsible AI and how to move ahead with a responsible mindset.
If we go to the innovation aspect of those initiatives and time back to the Global Green Action Day, are some of the mindset shifts. So we talked about culture, implementation, perhaps the mindset, it can be employees or it can be the leaders. What are some of the mindset shifts you've learned from innovation days or through the Global Green Action Day that whether surprised you or you think is so important, deliver sustainability, perhaps an advice for sustainability leaders or aspiring sustainability leaders that you may share from any of those experiences?
Yeah. So one of the things I love about innovation, is no matter how experienced I am or somebody else is about innovation, about the methodology, I know how to enable others to innovate. When it comes to the actual day or the actual process, if you have enough patience and you're open enough, great things come out. So also on the Global Green Action Day, I mean, I loved the energy where, yeah, we prepared them well. We gave them, how to think about innovation in a systematic and in a systems thinking way, how to take into account, regulatory requirements. We set the scene, but you really have to have people together, and then you will be surprised. So for me, that's, although I'm already used to that kind of surprise, it always surprises me. Putting people from different backgrounds together, and we had, students and academia and people from private sector and public sector and startups. So I would encourage, try to move out of your bubble. And that's what open innovation is about. Because if you bring in more people, but you're serious about it, not just like one person and you don't really then give them a voice, but give voice to other perspectives, I love to, then I'm surprised. And I'm always, what I try to do is I try to maybe even suspend my own opinion and my own ideas so that others have the opportunity to express theirs. And then I try to synthesize and ask questions, of course, and be curious about the other directions that which I haven't thought about. So that to me is always a way to ensure that I am surprised, because I like to be surprised. Otherwise, if I know everything, that's okay. Probably I'm stuck.
On the last part, as you mentioned, reminded me a story from one of the previous guests. She worked for Microsoft in the early days, and she shared an example that Bill Gates, when he was with the Microsoft, was fond of have an idea, have 3 or 4 or 5 different teams look at the same idea, but not telling them that they all exploring the same idea. And what I infer from that exercise is he wants to be as open as possible and see where things can go.
We try to do the same with the Global Green Action Day, right? Because we had 4 locations plus the online one, and we let different teams address the same challenge. So we ended up with a diverse perspective, and even though all those locations were in Europe, Western Europe mostly, still it's different context. The legislation system is different. The way that the public behaves is different. The economies are different, right? The maturity of the market and the authorities is different. So it's always great to have different perspectives, even if you remain in your own city, if you're responsible for the city. So take ideas from different neighborhoods. If you're in the country, take from different urban areas and rural areas, right? Expand your perspectives.
The final few questions to wrap up. Where do you see in the next 5 years or so that excites you about where the Green Action Day could take to solve some of the challenges of sustainability?
Yeah. So this was the first time that we connected this learning and training to an action day, and we proved that it could be done, and we proved that it could be done in multiple locations. It wasn't easy, but we were able to do it, and we are now looking forward to scaling it, because and it could be either, it doesn't have to be just once a year. We could do it every quarter, maybe every month. Maybe we could do it inside large organizations and enterprises that want to drive this. So my hope that within the next 2-3 years, we can help others replicate what we've done there. We can show momentum of the ideas of that open innovation approach, and ultimately we can actually change, right? We can contribute. The whole thing we set out to do is connecting sustainability, innovation, technology together. So hopefully we can be proven right to do that system thinking, as you put it.
Quite exciting. Action is so much needed within sustainability. So anything that shows practical examples of delivering action is always good. So is there any other aspect of sustainability innovation at the Global Action Day I haven't asked?
The only thing I would say is, we are all very open to ideas, to collaboration. I mean, the whole program is around collaboration. So don't hesitate to reach out, as I said, either to myself, to Fernanda, to the program in general, and you can go to Global Green Action Day. You can connect with us. And Evelina, of course, which I mentioned before. So yeah, just looking for more opportunities, reach out and let's take action together.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Amir, for joining us, for sharing these incredible insights. I love the journey from the innovation to the sustainability, the Green Action Day, all of these key insights. If you can help where the link they can find more about you or about your work, if you can share the details, and I'll put the link in the description as well.
Yeah, I can share both my LinkedIn profile and the site we have. It's globalgreenactionday.com. We can put it in the show notes, and yeah, please check it out. See, we have some recordings of the training, but join us for the next times that we have action days.
As always, please live sustainably and let's make an impact together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Enoch, and everybody.